Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of my channel. I'm Johanna, a former management consultant currently based in London, and this is where we will explore all things careers, relationships, and life in the UK. For today's video, I'm kicking off with an exclusive interview with Simon, a former executive director at JP Morgan in the UK, who has over 20 years of experience in the financial consulting industry. Together, we will discuss what it will really take to break into top-tier investment banking, how to stand out in group interviews, and even if it's possible to get in without internships. Plus, we will share tips for international students navigating the UK job market and some reflections on balancing work and life. Let's jump right in. What kind of person do you think can really get into the JP Morgan?
It's about wanting to make a difference. So you're going to go into the role and you're going to say, I'm going to become very good, very efficient in my role. I'm then going to seek out opportunities to make things better. As a graduate, as a future leader, people we want to invest in, because you are the future of the company, It is all about, does this person actively want to make bigger and better difference so that things are better at the bank? Let's say you were working as a system manager in the banking lobby. It's getting very busy. It would be that kind of thing. You look around, you see there's a problem and you go, there's something that's not quite right here. Boss, can I go and try and do this to make things better? And if you can come down with an example and say, I saw a process, it was either manual or it was horrible or whatever it was. I came up with a solution to make it better and more efficient. And as a result, either money went up or money went down, expenses went down, or waiting time was reduced. You've got to be measurable. You've got to say, before we did it, this is what it looked like. I made the change. Afterwards, this is the measurable, either hours or dollars.
And how do you think they can stand out through the whole recruitment progress, considering it's quite competitive?
Confidence and leadership potential. So the graduate program is about identifying the leaders of the future. So we know we have to invest 3 or 5 years in somebody, and then before they can really do the leadership path. But through the graduate process, you're looking to see somebody who's confident, somebody who's self-aware. By being self-aware, it means that actually there's some things which I know I'm not good at now, but I have a plan to become good at them.
And how about the strengths, like specific strengths that they should have?
Normally attention to detail, because the work is complicated and complex. You need to be able to handle and say, okay, I fully understand how this complicated, complex thing works and where my part is in it. Other strengths are ability to absorb new ideas quickly. But if you're sitting there scratching your head 3 days later, I'm looking at you thinking, yeah, you're maybe not the right person for this job. And thirdly, mental resilience. So there are maybe weeks when you pull a 14-hour day. That's part of the job. You're getting paid more than the average because we ask more than the average. We want more than the average. So I think in terms of finding a job is half the battle. Let's say you do it, you've been correctly mentored, you managed to get the job, it's like great, fantastic. It's like, now what? Obviously as a graduate, they try and help you understand what you're in, they put you in a group and you've got to help people, but again it's almost like you've been cut off from your sort of help and suddenly you're suddenly into this new environment. That's where the third thing I was talking about earlier, what we look for, resilience. It will be tough. You will have to work very, very hard, not just on the technical side of the work, but also on the cultural side of the job. In this respect, Chinese students have the advantage over Western students by the fact of you've done Gaokao. It is extraordinarily difficult. It requires significant amounts of mental discipline to get it done. So this is the downside in the West, where we're trying to visualize our careers and say focus on the individual, and what are your dreams and the rest of it. We have moved away from that level of resilience. But Chinese students who will come in and they'll say, the job needs to get done. And instead of a Westerner complaining and walking out saying, no, they're working me too hard, I know I can rely, or Chinese graduate is now in their job to say they will stick at it and they will get it done.
And do you have any tips for students who want to join JPM? How they should prepare?
Preparation is going to be focused on 3 different levels. Number 1, know the company, know the role that you're going into. So, and this can be applied to any company that you go to. Companies have corporate values. You need to understand what these corporate values are. And when you're asked a question, your response should be referencing one of these corporate values to say, it's important to you, JP Morgan, it's important to me as well. The second part is making sure that mentally your technical game is absolutely 100% for the day, because you will be assessed and watched from the minute that you walk into that door to the minute that you walk out. And how you behave, pushing forward your technical skills, will be observed the entire way through. If you slip up, it may not be a fatal mistake, but it certainly will be noticed. Even if it's just for a few minutes, we will notice it. Thirdly, when you are interacting with the other people in your group, assessment center, you must cooperate as a team. Even if you know the person sitting to the right of you, sitting to the left of you, is your rival for this position, you must work with them as a team. If you don't, if it looks like you're pushing your team members down to say, look at me first, don't look at them, it will be noticed and you will not be considered to be a team player. I was involved at the recruitment for graduates and also the recruitment for summer interns. So what we do, we'll observe them doing individual presentation. So we've got 10, 15 minutes watching them do that. We'll observe them in a group project, and we keep absolute eyes on them as they're preparing as a group. Then they do the presentation. So now we've seen them for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then they go and do their individual interviews. And yes, you're right, that's 10 minutes at the end, but it's 10 minutes with 4 different people. And then we, as 4 different people, we sit down and we say, what did you think? I asked this person that question, what kind of response did you get? And the person says, well, I asked the person that question, what kind of response? So actually, it only seems like you've got 10 minutes with us on a one-to-one, but the reality is we've been watching you for close to an hour and a half, and you've got multiple eyes on you, and we have multiple conversations about you. So, even as assessors, we have to work very, very hard on that day. And then when all the candidates walk out the door, we have now another 2 hours by which we need to figure out who we're going to take and who we're not going to take.
It seems internship is quite important to apply for the banking roles.
Really, very, very, very.
Whoa.
So if you're coming from overseas as a postgraduate student, you're at a disadvantage because you would have had to apply before you finished your degree in China and before you knew you had a place at a British university. However, if you're a Chinese student and you have done your undergraduate or you're doing your undergraduate in the UK, if you can get that internship in the summer before your final year, it makes your life so much easier because between 30 and 35% of the graduates are taken from the summer internship.
Yeah, I think I heard about it, but still so many students, the postgraduate student, they are trying to get secure role in.
Yeah, it can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying you have to recognize the environment and the landscape in which you are. Now, we appreciate there are some students who have not had internships, who may not have had a part-time job during the summer or whatever. Unfortunately, you're at a disadvantage. If all your answer is, oh, I did a really hard group project as part of my master's, like, oh, that's okay. But I've got 2 people over there who said, I did this during my summer internship, I did that. And it's those kind of examples that make you stand out. Real world experience. So if you manage to get a summer internship at JP Morgan and you pass a summer internship, and it's difficult because you have 6 to 8 weeks of working properly, as your proper job, you're not sitting there, just messing around in a spreadsheet. They say, do this task now, do this next task. At the end of that, then executive director level, we get together and we say who passed, who fails. And then if you pass, after that, we'll say, okay, great, you can go back and do your final year. As long as you get a 2-1, you've got a job offer. But the postgraduates are coming in, they really need to be focused on preparation for how you get into either JP Morgan or any of the big banks. How do you do it? Again, you're focusing back on what's your motivation? Why do you want to join this company and this department? Tell me about your competencies.
So how about students, they have experience in China, but not in the UK?
If it's banking experience, yes, it helps. Absolutely helps. Now, there's a difference between having an internship as an assistant manager standing in the lobby of a bank in China, where I've seen a lot of Chinese CVs say that, and I say, well, what did you do? I said, well, we helped old people with the machines because the machines are very advanced and old people are not so good at using them. So we say, oh, okay, well, that's not real banking experience. However, is professional experience. So that's good. So we recognize the fact is you are working actually, we know in the banking lobbies, sometimes it can be high pressure. Sometimes people can lose their tempers. You can say, but you've worked in a highly pressured environment in the banking industry and you focused on the client. That is valid experience. 35 to 45, I would expect as a starting range for a graduate. So let's put it this way. The average salary of the United Kingdom is 35,000 a year. As a graduate, you'd be walking into that. You'd be walking to people who've been working for 15, 20 years. That's their average salary. As a graduate, you're starting on that.
But we expect much higher for investment banks, over 100K.
Eventually, yes. Eventually. Nobody's going to pay for somebody who's walked out as a graduate, has walked out of university, doesn't know anything, 100K. Not going to happen. Now, you may, if you start off with, say you start off with 35, 45K, let's say you go into corporate investment banking, let's say you do extremely well in your first year, we'll give you a really good bonus. So at the end of the year, your total take home will be maybe pushing 100K, but we're not going to give you a salary of that to start with. You haven't done anything yet. Great potential, but you haven't done anything yet.
Okay, even they have really good background from Oxford, Cambridge.
Have you put a single dollar on the table at the bank before you walked in the door? No, you have not. So, okay, let's say you go into something like a quant area, or if you want to say, so yeah, at that point, yes, let's say your starting salary may be pushing up towards the 50, 55 mark. But 100K for somebody who's literally not done a day's work in their life? This is not an American hedge fund.
I read lots of news about the hiring freeze and firing. Do you think now is the worst time in banking industry?
If you'd answered this question 7 days ago, I'd have said yes. Having seen what I've seen at the moment, there are more roles coming into the market. This is because big companies have frozen hiring for probably close to 18 months. Eventually, there's so much work that needs to be done. You do need to hire more people. So I think we're starting to see a slow unfreeze of positions. It's still very competitive, but I've got a lot more hope for the second half of 2024 than I did for the first half of 2024.
Oh, that's the good news. You mentioned about English. I'm just wondering, is that English very important to secure a job in investment banks?
You've got to be able to converse in English properly. There's information flying around very, very quickly quickly. People are speaking to each other very, very quickly. You've got to be able to get it and understand what on earth is going on. Because if you don't, you'll make a mistake. And this is where generally Asians, and when I say Asians, I mean Asia as a whole, there's a bad tendency to say, do you understand that? And they go, yeah. And you go, no, you don't. You don't understand it. Whereas the Westerner would say, no, I don't. Can you tell me that again? So it's a behavior thing. In the Western investment banks, if you don't understand, say so. It's not a fatal mistake to say, I don't understand. Because what are you going to do other than that? So I've got your first graduate job. You're sitting in there. If you don't understand, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there feeling miserable, trying to figure out what it is the person asked you. You might try and, say somebody next to you, help. What does that mean? Your team leader's looking at you, knowing 100% that you did not understand what your team leader asked you to do. It's the biggest cultural shift that any Asian has to do when they come to a Western company. Turn around and say, sorry, I didn't understand that.
Well, that's exactly what I experienced in my early career. I'm still experiencing it. Well, really good lesson for me as well. Next time I will just say, sorry, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can say, I don't think I fully understood it. Do you mean that?
Yeah.
And you can reflect back something. That's good. That's good. Accent is fine. It's similar to China. We have regional dialects, regional accents. I was on a call on Friday. I've got somebody on there from the north of Scotland. They have a very, very specific accent. Somebody from northwest England. Theirs is quite different. So between the three of us, we kind of soften our accents so we can meet in the middle. So accented speech, that's fine. We've all got it. Level of English, and here, I'd like to compliment you on the standard of your English. It's very good. It's very professional. This is what I would be looking for in a student. You speak, your command of vocabulary, grammar, ability to put the concept across. So I'd say to any Chinese student that's watching, I'd say, look at Johanna, follow Johanna. If you can do what Johanna does, your English is fine.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What is the best advice to students or recent graduates entering the job market?
So, if you'd asked me this before COVID, I would have said, focus on getting the job in the area that you think you want, you visualize in your career. Post-COVID, get your first job. It's a very, very tough marketplace right now. As we say in the West, get your feet under the table and then start thinking about the future. You might have to do that, and then do that, and then do that, and do that, and do that, and do that. Over time. If you can find that first job somewhere roughly within professional services, financial services, whatever field you want to go into, take it. It may not be the perfect job, but take the job, work your way through the organization, use those first 2 years to really kind of look around, understand the professional landscape that you're in, and then start thinking, well, after I've done my first 2 or 3 years, depending on how long the graduate program is, I will use this time to work out my next career move. But right now, to the advice to people, do your research, visualize, understand what it is, then have a look at the industry, have a look at the recruitment cycle of the industry. Obviously there are people out there that can help you to work out, work your way through this. Because again, I'm very, very aware, a lot of Chinese students will not have studied overseas. They've dropped themselves in the UK for a 1-year course, and suddenly they've got to get their English up to scratch, find somewhere to live, and then they say, oh, here's your course, start your course, and by the way, start applying for a job as well, all in a different language. It's a big job. And Asians are very good at that. They will go very quiet. My boss has got this wrong. I'm not saying anything. Westerners may come in and say, no, sorry, boss, you're wrong. And you've just embarrassed the boss. Believe me, you don't want to be on that side of the equation. So in that respect, Asians have an advantage. Seek out quietly areas where you can show how good you are and help out. There's nothing wrong with saying, I hear something else is going wrong somewhere. Can I help out a bit? And say, oh, I hear X, Y is running behind. I've got 10, 15% of my time available if you need me to do some basic analysis or something to help out. Westerners are very good at smelling out where's trouble. And if you say, oh, I can see that bit over there, there's trouble over there, great, I'll go and help out. When it comes to Asia, their mentality is, if that's going wrong over there, I'm not touching it. Somebody else's problem. I'm not going anywhere near there. Whereas in the West, it's very different. If your boss is under pressure, they will be grateful that somebody's offered to help them.
If something is wrong, I will be worried. I will make it even worse. That's why I usually step
That's
back.
very unlikely, because you are unlikely to be given such a large part of it that you could mess up. You would only like to be given a small part of it. It's like to create all these big presentation decks. So even if it's just, hey, do you need me just to have a look over the deck for 1 hour, 2 hours, and just make sure that there are no small mistakes in there which you should have picked up on. So there's nothing worse than sitting in a meeting, you're presenting, and you see something, you go, oh.
I get it.
Next slide. So again, that's one of the hidden rules. Offer to help. Somebody's struggling, say, do you need an extra pair of eyes just to check something over? And that's what's called a skip level conversation. So a skip level conversation is, I have a direct conversation with my boss's boss. We can't have somebody causing trouble by saying, hey, big boss, my little boss is da 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 da. This is all part of my career building. There's something called sausage and sizzle. It's about what is the maximum combination of sausage and sizzle to achieve. The sausage is literally the meat. This meat represents what work you do. The sizzle is when you put it in the frying pan and it makes a big noise to create your most positive impact. What percentage would you apply for sausage? What percentage would you apply for sizzle, the noise that you make telling people about it? What do you think the optimal mix is? The work that you do and how much you tell other people about it in a percentage split.
Maybe 60-40?
It's 20-80.
Wow, really?
You are all good professionals. You can all do the work. You've got to tell people about it. So this is the West. That's the things. You've done the work. You've now got to tell people about it. We both work for big organizations. There's a lot of work getting done. So it goes all the way back to your silent rules. Who do you think gets the recognition? Who gets the next opportunity? The person that goes, hey, I did this. Great. Give that person more responsibility. If you just go, unfortunately, you may not like the truth. As a boss, I've got responsibilities as well. I've got my own work to do. My work does not solely consist of looking at every single piece of output that you do. You need to tell me. A lot of people ask, how do I know when I'm ready for a change of job or change of career? At a deep psychological level, it works very, very simply. Are you walking more slowly to work? Are you taking a longer route to work? Do you feel a sense of dread every time you sit down at your desk? God, I really don't want to do this. Without any kind of logical arguments, rational arguments, that's your mind and body telling you it's time for a change, and you really do need to listen to that. You're never going to know 100% what is the right choice until you live it. Life is like a lesson. It's not over till the lesson's finished. All you can look at is just with your instincts, with your heart. So there are some people who do like the administrative side of tasks. Some people like the creative side of tasks. I think if you end up in a job where you are doing 60, 70% of what you like and 30 to 40% of what you find a bit boring, you're doing quite well. Nobody gets, unless your name is Elon Musk and you run your own company.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elon Musk.
Only the people at the very top get to do exactly what they want from when they start work to when they finish work. You are never going to know 100% is your next choice the right choice. But as long as if you feel it's right, it probably is. And is the job going to be perfect for you? No, it probably won't. But if you like most of it, then that's a victory. They may not like the tasks they're doing. You will only ever see their best work.
如果我真的很讨厌这个工作，觉得没有意义，该怎么办？
There's always a learning opportunity in what you do. The task may be dull. There are lots and lots of different things around the task which I can do to keep it interesting. The way is just find interesting things around the task just to keep you engaged with the task. If you've given a new task and it's pretty dull, for me, maybe I used to use it to increase my Excel skills or learn something more about word formatting or use it to investigate a part of the bank that I was working at, what I was doing it for, which I didn't know much about. So the task may be dull, but there's there are lots and lots of different things around the task which I can do to keep it interesting. So I can get onto phone calls with people who are experts at it and say, I don't fully understand this. Right now, it's not really that interesting to me, but I sense it's very important. And then that person will say, okay, this is why it's important. So you can increase your knowledge that way. For me,
心理策略，不爱干的活就去找点有意思的点，让自己更能投入进去。
you have to come up with a mental strategy to trick your brain that it actually is still interesting, so you give it your best work. And interestingly, when you actually finish that task, the sense that you've done something to a high standard which you didn't really like, to give it to your boss, you go, there you go. You feel really good about yourself.
搞定了你并不那么喜欢的事儿，并成功交付，自己本身也会很有成就感。
I think we've all been in situations. You go back to school and somebody gives you a piece of homework, you hand it in, and you know it's not great. And you're like, oh, I should have done better. But when you hand something in and it's really good, you go,
I can feel it. Yes, exactly. I feel that the same way.
Yeah. So that's part of the way of keeping yourself motivated, is saying, knowing at the end, when you hand it in, nobody can turn around and say, you didn't do that particularly well. You say, yeah, I did.
很多人的误区是只管好是坏的领导要反馈，这并不会让你在屏蔽中脱颖而出。
So I always have at least one, if not two people that are very difficult to please, and I'll put them down.
策略是至少搞定一个难伺候的领导，要到他们的正向反馈。
And that's because if you get a few positive comments from these people, your boss is going to go, okay, no, that person's very difficult to please. You got 2 or 3 good comments from them. That's good. You need to do something to show you are better than your peers. My division, there are 60, 70 of us, and we're all good. We're all strong professionals. So how does my boss figure out from all these strong professionals who's better and who's worse? It's really difficult. You're always thinking 2 things. 1, how do I do my job really well? Number 2, how do I show that I've done my job better than everybody else who's my peer?
听起来还是跳槽更容易一些，是不是？
If that's your attitude, then that's absolutely fine. It is statistically easier to get promoted by moving between companies than it is within a company, and you'll get a better pay rise. So you do see people who do this with their career. I've done a few jumps before as well, and I've said, okay, I really need the big pay rise. Normally it happens to me around about the time when we had a new child. So I have 3 children. So the first child, I was like, oh God, I need to get a new job. Second child, okay, this is now getting more expensive. I need to get a better paying new job. Third child, wow, okay, we're going to the Middle East. We're going to Dubai. So I need to get a really big paying job for 3 kids now.